On my wedding day, my stepmother whispered, "Your father won't be walking you down the aisle, his son deserves that honor." My father lowered his head, "It's only fair." My hands trembled as my husband's family watched in shock. I took a deep breath and said, "That's fine. I'll walk alone." When the doors opened, they weren't expecting who walked beside me. I, 29 female, got married last Saturday. What should have been the happiest day of my life turned into the most confusing, heartbreaking, and insane day I've ever experienced. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, raised mostly by my dad, Robert. My mom passed away when I was 8 after a car accident on James Island Connector. It was just us for a while until he married Patricia when I was 12. She wasn't evil or anything, just cold. We were never close, never hugged, never said I love you. I always kept a distance, and I'm pretty sure she was fine with that. Now, my dad has always been my hero. Worked hard. Provided. He was the kind of dad who showed up to every school event, every dance recital, even the ones I sucked at. He made my lunch every morning until I hit high school. I always imagined him walking me down the aisle. James, my now husband, and I have been together for 5 years. We got engaged last year. Everything was going great. His family is wonderful. Supportive. Loving. And they were all flying in from Maine for the wedding. We planned it all out, ceremony at St. Michael's Church on Broad Street, then a reception at Magnolia Plantation. Classic Charleston vibe, nothing over the top. Rehearsal dinner was Friday night. We had it at a small place called High Cotton. It was beautiful. Candlelight, low jazz music, southern food done right. That's when everything started to unravel. After everyone finished eating and was mingling around, Patricia came over and said she needed to speak with me privately. We stepped outside onto the patio. She was holding a glass of wine and looked me straight in the eyes. Then she said it. "Your father won't be walking you down the aisle tomorrow. His son deserves that honor." I laughed at first. I thought it was some twisted joke. Then I realized she was dead serious. I asked her what she meant. "His son? I don't have a brother." She just tilted her head and said, "It's only fair." At that point, I thought maybe she meant one of my cousins or something. I walked back in, found my dad standing with James's uncle, and asked to talk. We went into one of the empty rooms in the restaurant. And then he said it. "It's true. I have a son. Patricia and I had him before we got married. His name is Michael. I thought you knew." I couldn't even speak. I just stared at him. My mind was trying to put things together that didn't make sense. "I wanted to tell you," he continued, "but there was never a right time. He's been part of our lives the whole time." What? I had literally never seen or heard of this person. Not once. I had no idea they had a kid. He never lived with us. He wasn't at holidays, birthdays, nothing. And now, on my wedding day, they decide to drop this? So I ask him, why now? Why today? He actually looked ashamed. Because Patricia thought it would be meaningful if he walked you down the aisle. As a way to show you're accepting all parts of the family. I said, "You want me to accept someone I've never met, on the day I'm supposed to get married, and let him walk me instead of you?" He didn't say anything. Just looked down. I walked out. I didn't cry. Not then. I was in total shock. James's mom saw me come out and asked if I was okay. I couldn't even explain. That night I barely slept. I stayed at the hotel with my maid of honor and cried most of the night. The next morning, wedding day, I kept going over it all. No apology. No explanation. Just, "It's only fair." Everyone at the venue thought everything was fine. Makeup artist, hairstylist, the whole crew. I smiled, took pictures, tried to keep my head on straight. Then came the moment. We were lining up to walk into the church. Bridesmaids had already gone. The music started. I was standing there with my bouquet, looking at the huge wooden doors. That's when Patricia came up behind me again. She whispered, "Michael's waiting." I turned around. And there he was. Standing next to my dad. Some guy, maybe 21, tall, looked nervous. I had never seen him in my life. I looked at my dad and said, "Are you really doing this?" He just said, "It's only fair." I looked at them both and said, "That's fine." Then I turned to the wedding coordinator and said, "I'll walk alone." Patricia looked smug like she'd won. My dad looked away. I was shaking, but I walked up to the doors. As they opened, everyone turned around. Music still playing. But I didn't walk in alone. Standing there, waiting for me, was my Uncle David, my mom's brother. I hadn't even known he was in town. He'd flown in from San Diego late the night before. My cousin had told him what was going on, and he came. He offered me his arm, and I broke down crying right there. We walked down together. The room was dead silent. My dad didn't move. Patricia just stared ahead. I haven't finished processing all of this. I still don't know what to make of it. There's more to the story, I just haven't gotten to the rest yet. So, after that walk down the aisle with Uncle David, things didn't magically get better. The ceremony went on. I kept it together. Said my vows. James held my hand the whole time like it was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. I smiled, I kissed him, we were officially married. But once the photos were done and we got to the reception at Magnolia Plantation, things went sideways fast. James's family noticed something was off from the beginning. His mom asked me what happened with my dad. I told her just enough so she wouldn't worry, but not the full thing. I didn't want to bring drama into the happiest part of the day. But it was boiling under the surface. I avoided my dad and Patricia the whole cocktail hour. They didn't come up to congratulate us. They just stood by themselves like they didn't know anyone. Michael, my surprise half-brother, stood with them like a lost puppy. He kept trying to make eye contact with me. I kept looking away. Then, during dinner, James's dad got up to do a toast. And during it, he made this comment that I don't think was meant to be rude, but it hit a nerve. He said something like, "We're so proud of the woman you've become, especially growing up without a mother. Your father must be proud too, seeing you walk yourself down the aisle like the strong woman you are." It wasn't a jab. He meant well. But it made something snap in my dad. He got up. Right there, in front of everyone, he raised his glass and said, "Actually, she didn't walk alone. Her uncle stole that moment from someone who had every right to be there." The room froze. Like, music stopped. Glasses clinked. Forks dropped. James squeezed my hand under the table. I stood up. I said, "You had 29 years to tell me about Michael. You picked today." He tried to talk, but I kept going. "You lied to me my entire life. You let your wife pull this stunt and thought I'd just smile through it." Then Patricia stood up. "You're overreacting. We wanted to include everyone. That's what families do." James's mom stood up. "You ambushed her. On her wedding day." It turned into a shouting match. Guests were whispering. James stood up and asked the DJ to turn the music back on. It helped. People started to dance. The night picked back up. But my father and Patricia left early, without saying goodbye. Michael lingered for a bit, standing by the fountain near the gardens, just watching. Then, he showed up at my hotel. I was in the bridal suite at the Dewberry. I was just getting ready for bed when the phone rang. The front desk said someone named Michael was downstairs, asking to speak with me. I told them no. 5 minutes later, I got a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry for all of it. I didn't ask for this. But I'm not the enemy." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My emotions were a mess. I was angry, hurt, confused, and most of all, I didn't trust anyone. Later that night, James and I sat on the balcony. I told him everything. The whole timeline, how none of it added up. And that's when he said something that's been eating at me since. What if Patricia planned this the whole time? What if Michael wasn't supposed to walk you down the aisle, but was supposed to take your dad's place completely? And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. Michael was never introduced to me. My dad never brought him around. Patricia never mentioned him. And then bam, the night before my wedding, he's suddenly the son that deserves the spotlight? Feels like a setup. But it gets weirder. Because yesterday, I got a message from my cousin, my dad's niece. She sent me screenshots of Patricia's Facebook. Apparently, months ago, Patricia posted a picture of Michael in a tux with the caption, "Can't wait to see him shine at the wedding." The wedding. Not my wedding. Just the wedding. There were more pictures too. One of him trying on suits. One of him standing in front of St. Michael's Church from a visit 2 months ago. With the caption, "He'll be perfect walking down those steps." So yeah, this wasn't spontaneous. This was planned. I don't know if my dad was fully on board from the beginning, or if Patricia pressured him into it, but they were definitely plotting something behind my back. And now? Now I'm trying to figure out what to do next. I haven't spoken to my dad since that night. Patricia hasn't reached out. Michael's text was the only olive branch, but I still don't know what his role really is. There's more, but I need to go through some old things. My mom's journals. Some boxes in the attic. I think there's something else here, something I never noticed before. Some of the puzzle pieces aren't adding up. I wasn't planning to post another update this soon. But I found something last night that's blown this entire thing wide open. I feel like my whole life was built on a half-truth, and I'm not sure who to trust anymore. After everything that happened at the wedding, I couldn't sleep. My husband James was already out cold, but my mind wouldn't stop racing. I kept thinking about that Facebook post Patricia made, about Michael walking down those steps. It wasn't a passing comment. She was expecting him to walk me down the aisle. Months in advance. And that made me realize something. This wasn't just about some fairness thing. It was never about me accepting him as part of the family. It was about replacing me. Or at the very least, rewriting something that had nothing to do with him in the first place. So, today, I went to my childhood home. It's still the same old colonial-style house in Mount Pleasant. My dad wasn't home, he was at work, I assume. Patricia wasn't there either. I let myself in with the spare key hidden in the fake rock in the garden. I've known that rock since I was 13. I went straight to the attic. I knew my mom had kept journals. She was a big writer, always scribbling in leather-bound notebooks. I hadn't touched them in years. After she passed, I just couldn't. I dug through some boxes until I found one labeled Amy, 1993 to 1998. That's my mom's name. Inside were 10 or 11 journals. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly, but I opened one from 1996. The year before her accident. And that's when everything shifted. The entry, July 2nd, 1996. Robert came home late again. Said he was working. But he had perfume on him. Not mine. I know something's going on. I asked him straight out. He said I was being paranoid. But I'm not stupid. He's distant. Cold. Something's changed. I think there's someone else. I followed him last week. I know how that sounds. But I needed to know. He wasn't at work. He was with her. Patricia. I saw them at Paige's Okra Grill. Sitting close. She touched his hand. I don't know what to do. I don't want to break this family. But I can't pretend anymore. If something happens to me, I need someone to know. I dropped the book. I read that line over and over. If something happens to me. I grabbed another journal. This one dated January 1997, 2 months before her accident. More entries. More signs she suspected Patricia and my dad were together. She never wrote anything outright, but she made comments like, he was with her again. She called the house looking for him, and when I answered, she hung up. He told me I was overthinking. That it was all in my head. I feel like I'm going crazy. I don't know who he is anymore. And then this one, I found a receipt from a doctor's office. Woman's clinic. Patricia's name was on it. Why would Robert have that in his glove box? At that point, my hands were shaking. The journals were old, yellowed, but they felt like they were burning in my hands. It hit me like a truck. Patricia and my dad were together before my mom died. Not just together, intimately involved. And remember what Patricia said? Michael deserves that honor. James's theory came flooding back. What if Patricia was trying to replace my dad in my life with Michael? But what if it went deeper than that? Here's where it gets really messed up. I started thinking back to what my dad said. Patricia and I had a son before we got married. Okay. So let's do some math. I'm 29. Michael looked maybe 20 or 21. Which means he was born around 2004. Patricia and my dad got married in 2005. But the affair happened in 1996 to 1997. So, what happened between those years? Then I remembered something weird. When I was in high school, Patricia disappeared for almost a year. My dad said she was taking care of her mother in North Carolina. She came back and never talked about it. I always assumed it was true. But now? Now I'm not sure she ever left the state. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I called Michael. At first, I was hesitant. I stared at the number he texted from after the wedding for like 30 minutes. Then I just did it. He answered immediately. Sounded nervous. I asked him point blank, "Do you know who your mother is?" Silence. Then he said, "Yes. Patricia." I said, "Are you sure?" He paused again. Then said, "Why wouldn't I be?" I asked him, "Do you have a birth certificate? Any documents? Do you know who was listed as your mother when you were born?" He sounded shaken. Said he never saw any paperwork. That Patricia always just said she was his mom and dad was his dad. Then he asked something I wasn't expecting, "You think your mom is my mom?" And I swear my stomach dropped. That's not where I was going with this. But now? Now I'm wondering everything. Why was there a doctor's receipt? Why did my mom suspect something serious? Why did she write, "If something happens to me"? What if the lie isn't just about Michael being a hidden son? What if the lie is about who Michael really is? I'm not saying anything definitive. But there are gaps here. Big ones. And Patricia's face at that wedding? The way she stood there, calm, smug, like she'd won something? It haunts me. I need answers. I'm going to request Michael's birth record. I'm also going to ask my dad some very specific questions. He won't like it. But I'm done tiptoeing. My mother's memory deserves more than this. And if what I think is even half true, then this story is far from over. I got the birth record. Michael's birth certificate came through from the county office 2 days after I filed the request. I almost didn't want to open it. But I did. The mother's name wasn't Patricia. It wasn't my mom either. It was someone I'd never heard of, Angela Parker, born in 1983, originally from Summerville, South Carolina. Michael was born in 2004, just like I suspected. Father listed, Robert L., my dad. Mother, Angela. No Patricia. No Amy, my mom. No mention of marriage, adoption, nothing. So now I had more questions than before. If Patricia wasn't his biological mom, why had she raised him as her own? And more importantly, why pretend it was their child together? I called Michael again. This time, I met him in person. We sat at a coffee shop off East Bay Street. He was quiet, tense. I handed him the printout. He looked at it for a long time. His lips parted, but no words came out. Then he whispered, "She lied to me." And that's when he told me everything. He didn't remember much about his early years, just bouncing between apartments with a woman he thought was his aunt. That woman was Angela. She was young, unstable, in and out of rehab. When he was about 5, Angela dropped him off at a friend's house and never came back. That house was my dad's. Patricia had opened the door. He remembered her eyes. Cold. They didn't tell him who Angela was. They didn't tell him why he was there. Just said, "You're with us now. You're safe here." He never saw Angela again. As he got older, he asked questions. Patricia always answered the same way, "I'm your mother. That's all that matters." He tried asking my dad once. My dad said nothing. Then, in a whisper, Michael added, "I think Patricia made him choose between me and the truth." I didn't know what to say. We sat there in silence, both of us realizing that our lives, so different, had been puppeteered by the same two people. Then came the confrontation. I called my dad and told him to come to the house. Just him. No Patricia. He showed up. Same quiet face, same tired eyes. Michael and I were waiting. I handed him the certificate. I asked, "Why did you lie?" He looked at it, sat down slowly, and rubbed his forehead. And then he finally said it. "Because Angela was your mother's sister." Time stopped. I couldn't breathe. She was unstable. Got pregnant. Didn't want the child. Your mother begged me not to take him in. She didn't trust Angela. But Patricia convinced me. Said we couldn't leave him like that. I thought we were doing the right thing. I asked him, "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" He looked me in the eyes, for the first time in a long time. "Because your mother found out. And we fought. And that night she died on the road, after that fight." The room spun. He added, "I blamed myself. I still do." I asked him, "Did you love Patricia?" He didn't answer. Michael stood up. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. "You used me to cover up your guilt. You both did." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just stood up and walked away. Michael left right after. I didn't speak to my father for 2 weeks. Patricia tried calling. Texting. Leaving voicemails with the usual manipulative "we're still family" lines. I blocked her. Uncle David called me too. He said, "Your mother would be proud of you for demanding the truth." That was the first time I cried. James, my husband, was a rock through it all. He never pressured me. Never asked for more than I could give. Just stayed close, quietly reminding me I wasn't alone. I haven't forgiven my dad. I don't know if I ever will. But I've accepted the truth. Michael and I still talk. We're not close, how could we be, after all this, but we share a weird bond now. We both came from the same lie, just in different rooms of the same haunted house. I've learned that the truth doesn't always set you free right away. Sometimes, it shatters everything first. But after that, after the dust settles, you get to rebuild. On your own terms. And that's something no one can take away again.